record on this computer. All right, we are recording. So today we're going to be finishing Sandhi, and we're going to be trying my new methodology on the work on my PowerPoints that should be a lot more interactive. And I'd like to get your feedback on that after we get through it. So we'll get started here. I'm going to kind of talk through these things, and I want questions as we go. I may call on some volunteers, but I don't have any flashing up stuff like last time. The page is going to be the page, but what you'll see that I've done differently is I will give you a rule and an example, and then the next slide will actually reverse it. So if the first rule is how to put two words together and what you see, the next slide will be what you would see at the end and how you put it together. So that way you'll process the rule twice each time. The other thing that I've found is I can never remember off the top of my head what's voiced and what's voiced not, even though I can project it like a mental glyph, the Sanskrit thing. So I have to look on that chart that we find in Goldman. So I've embedded that one on every slide where you'll need it. So you won't have to look at your book. I won't have to flip to another slide. It'll be right there for us to look at and work through. And I think that'll be more effective. I did go back and I reworked all the slides up to this point. And I also went through and took the slides that clearly had me reproducing Goldman that even I looked back on and went, what is this? And I rewrote them in my own words. And in particular, I started advancing an idea of mutation. So instead of saying, one Sandhi changes because of this, I'm starting to use this language of mutation. When this ending sound meets this initial sound, there is like a radiation. And that radiation comes out. And it comes out. And it hits that final sound, that initial sound there. And what does it do? It turns into a mutant. It makes it change. And I kind of like this notion of mutation or magnetism better than, the other ways of just saying it coalesces. So trying to bring this to life, trying to figure out better ways to teach Sandhi. Here we go. We'll see if I'm successful. We'll see if I am not. All right, here we are. All right, can everybody see the screen? I do have one chat message. Erica is on the Zoom with me. Hi, Erica, wherever you are.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. All right, so we remember with Sandhi, what is Sandhi? And literally, what does it mean? San is like some, the prefix some, which is the same as Sanskrit. Sandhi, di means to hold. It's the same thing as dharana, to make firm. So it means to put something together. Sandhi, put together. Sanskrit, the rule we're going to learn today, why is it some and crit? Why is that S there? The homoorganic sibilant. Oh, yeah, that's right. So Sanskrit, that's why it's Sanskrit and not Sanskrit, but it means the language that is well put together. Okay. We are off. All right, cutting this down so I can read it. All right, so we're dealing with nasals today. Now, can you see my cursor, everybody? I'm going to try to use this better. When we look at our, pardon? Can you see it moving around?
So we can see it.
Okay, yes. So here we have the chart from Goldman, and I've used other charts before, and I didn't think they were as good. So with this one, I was able to update my Adobe software, which Naropa was unable to do, but University of Houston was able to. And I was able to take this directly from Goldman. The nice thing about this chart here is it has all your Vargas. Now, you might think to yourself, I can't remember what Kantya, Talavya, Murdya, Dantya, Ostya means, but that's the Ka Varga. That's the Ta Varga or the Cha Varga, or that's the Cha Varga. Sorry, I was thinking that wrong. It's the Ka Varga. That's the Cha class. That's the Ta, the retroflex class. There's Ta, Dantya, the dental class, and Ostya, the labial from your lips classes. Up here on the top, you see voiced minus, aspirated minus. Voiced minus, aspirated plus. Why is it aspirated? Because it's not Ka, not aspirated. It's Ka with a KH. Now, this little letter has been giving you all a lot of trouble. So I want you to pay attention to that Ka. So I've seen y'all call that a Ja. You used to all do ra and a va, but you figured that out. So I'm pleased with that. But you still don't tend to recognize it as quickly as I would expect. And I actually think that's because a lot of our examples in Goldman haven't used it enough. But now that you've all corrected yourselves on the quiz, I know you're going to be old pros at ka. So here we've gone from voice minus to voice plus. I know it's a little small, but just you'll be able to kind of know the shapes. So over here, we're in voice plus. So voice plus means ga, and there's a buzz in your throat. Do you have to feel the buzz in your throat? No, you just have to remember that this is voice plus. Here we have voice plus aspirated. That was voice plus non-aspirated. So that's ga, buzzing throat, ga. Now, over here we come to the nasals, and we see what class they're in, and what class they're in is going to be important for these Sandhi shifts. Here we notice that all the nasals are voiced. Over here, we have what they call the semivowels, fricatives, all sorts of things. But they're the ya, ra, la, va class. These are voiced as well. Note, none of these are aspirated. Then we come over to our final class, which are the sibilants, and we also include ha there. And there you'll notice that a ha is effectively aspirated, but don't worry about it. Sha, sha, sa, they're all kind of aspirated, but they're not, because sa is definitely not. Your issue with aspiration, though, here is not going to come up. What's important to remember is this is non-voiced. So non-voiced, 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 voiced, 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 voiced. Keep this diagram in your head. It's on like page 13 of Goldman, so you can refer back to it. And you know what? Maybe I'll put up a slide that just has this image so y'all can print it up on your own. So we're going to use this chart in particular to track these changes, or as I'm calling them, these mutations in vowel sandhis today. All right, I had Atlas raise his hand. What's up?
In the emboldened example in the middle of the slide, why does Raja go to Rajay?
Probably because let's see that it should be Raja, Rajay. It shouldn't. That's an error on my part. We'll get to that. So
Okay, I was making sure it wasn't one of those like Guna Freddy sort of
no,
things.
no, it isn't. You know, I'm never going to get them all. So the other thing to do, if you want to follow along with your book, which I really recommend, is we're going to start looking at Sandhi of nasals. So if you have your Goldman open, that starts on 350. What is it? It's on page nasals, 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 nasals. Yeah, that should just be Raja. Just making sure. So let me quick. Come on. There we go. Yeah, just Raja. Just a regular Raja. No need to be confused. Just your professor screwing something up. All right. So
Page 40 for that on the nasals.
yeah, we're going to start on page 40. Final of. Well, this isn't the right example. It's out of order already. Oh, irritated. All right. Well, I put my image in the wrong spot. This is where I wanted to talk to you in general. I put my little sign of, hey, here's where we start, in the wrong spot. So here we are at the nasals. So remember, I'm talking about mutations that will affect the voicing and also affect the class of the sounds. So our first example, I thought that example seemed awfully difficult for the first one. Here, I want you to look at these examples of mutation. Final consonants. So a final at the end, a final consonant before a nasal will change to the nasal of the Varga. Not terribly helpful, Goldman, but what we want to look here is that tus change a lot. So a ta will change to a na when it encounters a ma. So we go from etat ma kuru to etan ma kuru. Notice here, you have your dental ta. Now, it's coming into contact with a nasal. So what will it become? You see that the nasal is the ma. Look at the ta. Trace it over all the way to its nasal. It's na. So your ta, when it meets ma, gets that radiation of the ma, and that shifts it into a na. So from a tut ma kuru, we get a tan ma kuru. In another example, we'll see another one of these final consonants, the consonant ka, vak, which means voice. Now, we have another word here that's a ma again, ka, right over here. All right, so the ma is radiating, correct? Where is it going to mutate to? It's going to mutate across the varga to na, that upper na, your ka na. So it's na, na. Now, when you say it out loud, vak maya becomes van maya. Now, these are good examples. So etat ma karu means don't do that. Ma is a no, it's negative, and kuru is an imperative, so that's a verb, and etat is a pronoun. So what is important to remember here is when ta is radiated by ma, it mutates to na. Similarly, if cha encountered ma, it would be irradiated and mutate into na. Vak ending ka meets ma, and the radiation hits it, and it makes it into this na, van maya, which means it is only speech. I'll have translations on some of the further ones. Now, this is the shift in my thinking, in my teaching. After I've explained the word to you in the example, I'm going to put this up. And my statement is, break it. So here, the final consonant before a nasal mutates into the nasal of the varga, meaning if ta meets the ma, it mutates into the nasal of the same ta varga, which is dantya or dental. What I would like you to do, and I want volunteers here, or I'll start calling people, is to read the first one and explain the reason why it happens. Does that make sense? How am I doing?
Pretty good, I think.
Okay. That means you're up, Tessa. Explain it to me.
The first one?
Mm-hmm.
So because the...
Well, first read it.
Okay. Oh, geez. That's a ta nama etanma
Itanma.
etanma kudu
There you go. And then read the second part.
equals etat plus ma plus kudu.
Perfect. Part of the reason I'm asking you to do that, Tessa, is so you can feel the changes in your mouth. You need to say it out loud. Now explain the rule to me.
Okay, so because this final consonant is a ta,
Mm-hmm.
in this varga, it mutates to the na, the nasal of the same varga.
Right. And it mutates because it's come into contact of ma. The changing from the ta to the na is dictated by the radioactive energy of this ma. The ma is a general nasal. So remembering our rule, or in a simple form, that ta, when it encounters any nasal, will change into na. It will not change into na or na. Then it is dictated by that ma to turn only into its own na. All right, next person, reading and explaining.
Oh, because I'm in a radioactive background here.
Exciting.
Okay. Van Maya
Yeah,
ha. Van Maya ha.
good.
It is Vak plus Maya ha.
Good that you're
And
getting those visargas in there. That's excellent.
And it's because the ka is meeting the ma, so it's becoming that nya.
Yes. It's like you almost have to say that. Nah, I can't just naturally reproduce it. I go ka and then I go nah. Ka and then I gotta say the ka to get the nah there. My first Sanskrit teacher would always say when we would struggle with retroflexes, just start it with na. So if you're looking at, say, our retroflex nasal here, right? Na, na. I can say it now. But Stanishwar would always just call this the na. So you start with that sound, you put a little R in front of it, and it gets your tongue in the right place. Now, you can try this. So you got to say, your dental ta is right up the front, ta. Retroflex ta, though, you're like, ta, ta. Where is it? But if you go ta, and then ta, da, it gets your tongue right there. It's kind of cool, a little trick. And you may remember, for those of you that know Hindi, this da here is the da in the word sari. So we're used to seeing sari spelled S-A-R-I, but in Hindi, it's S-A and that's retroflex da. So the Hindi word, as we say sari, is actually sari, but we Americans hear it sari. There's your Hindi lesson. All right, we're moving right along. Come on.
Dr.
Okay.
Ulrich,
Yes.
Hold on one second.
Sure, Josh.
Is there a way for you to write the rule in Devanagari? Is it
To write the rule itself in Devanagari? I've kind of done this in some other ones. Like here I have the rules kind of written in Devanagari. There's a way to do it. I was trying to not do as much Devanagari on the page right now. But yes, there is a way. We can work that out. Why don't you ask me this at the end and I can write it, and I'll write it out on the board. We'll write it out together.
Cool. Yeah.
Sure.
I just feel way more comfortable with like Vowel Sandhi and this kind of consonant Sandhi is kind of like throwing me for
Well, the reason what Josh is really pointing to here is when you look at these sort of like English rules like this, the shapes don't tell you anything. But if you're looking here and here, you can see that the shapes actually tell you quite a bit. They almost visually represent the mutation. So I think I have those on some of the other slides, Josh. We'll get there.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here we are. We have a ma at the end of any word. This is a great one. Do you see that there's no chart here? There's no chart because there's no exceptions to this one. At the end of any word, a final ma like this, or as you just have like that, becomes the anuswara. The anuswara is a little dot that's called a bindu, which means a drop. We are going to see a little later in this exercise a thing called a chandra bindu. Now, if any of you are familiar with the syllable om, you'll notice that there's a bindu there, but it has a little crescent underneath it. Chandra means moon or crescent moon. So a chandra bindu, which we'll see when we get to when nas meet las, actually has an elegant sun and moon, or moon and drop together. And in fact, the moon will drop bindus of amrit, nectar, and on certain nights, it's thought that the yogi can turn his head up. I'm always going to talk about him when I'm talking about pre-modern yoga, because that's how it rolls. And the moon will drop nectar, immortal nectar, onto his tongue. So here, at the end of a word, the final ma turns into an anuswara. So let's look at this first example, and I'm going to give you the chance to break it next. So listen to how I pronounce it, and it's practice for reading. Ramas plus vanam plus gachati. In this rule, the ma here, at the end of any word, at the end of any final word that nothing is joining to it, and we'll talk about why words join and why words don't join later, it just becomes that little bindu dot. Now here we have a secondary Sandhi rule, and I'm going to explain, but you already know. Ramas plus vanam gachati. Why does ramas become vanam? Or why does ramas become ramo? Because the sa before the voiced becomes o. Is that right? I need my chart. But yeah, so this is when ramas meets the, then it becomes o. So we have two Sandhi rules. This is kind of a great one because, and this is why I like Goldman, because every time he gives you a new example, he's often building in ways that you can learn things and practice things that you learned before. Okay, so we've got another word, and I'm not going to tell you what that means because you better know what it means. Rishinam, yes, Atlas.
So extrapolating from this slide, but making sure that I'm correct here, when the M goes to Anuswara, we don't need to combine that word with the following word.
No, because then you would be
Okay, I'll
doing
go back and
Sandhi
correct some stuff.
another time.
Got
However,
it.
I will tell you, in handwritten manuscripts, they do it all the time. It's totally infuriating. But you don't need to worry about that right now. So once you get the one trip through that turns that last ma into a ma, into the to vanam, then you're done. Nothing else.
Okay. And then also, just double checking on this. What about when the M is in absolute final position at the end of a sentence?
That's a little hit or miss. I see that they often will leave it with a regular M with a virama. But sometimes it'll hit Anuswara. It's theoretically the rule would say it should be an Anuswara. Theoretically, but I see both.
So if that's the case, I mean, basically, like, does M even exist by itself?
Yes. And we will see plenty of examples because we're going to be looking at all the nasals from here on out. This is the first step.
Okay.
There will be plenty more.
All right.
But once again, thank you for being 4 slides ahead of me. All right.
Also,
thank you, Atlas. All right. So,
Dr. Allright,
yes.
I'm sorry, I might have missed this, but under number 1, where it goes from sa to o, and then it goes from nam to n.
Oh, that's an error. That's supposed to have a num. It's supposed to have an anuswara up there. It's supposed to be just like this.
Oh, okay.
I think I hit the anuswara and it just didn't come through. But yeah, good catch. But yeah, so look right there. So I was trying, because you can't just in any of these fonts just like put the dot there. You can't just have that being simple. So that's why I put the whole num there. So this is any like num, kam, vam, lum, padmam becomes padmam or vanum or whatever. So you nasalize your final ma at the end. This is a happy one. Yes.
Is there ever a time when you wouldn't do that? Like when you wouldn't make the M without the A on the end into a dot?
When you wouldn't put the say it one more time.
When you wouldn't put the M with when you would put the M with the take away the vowel. Virama, yeah. When you
generally no. If the ma with the virama with no vowel is at the absolute final position, which means that it's not going to connect to another word into a compound, get to that later, then the ma will become anuswara. However, as we continue on in these rules, you're going to see that when a ma connects to something else that it changes, then there's a couple of other things that happen. But for now, what I want you to remember is, if it is at the absolute final of a word, a ma with a virama after it just becomes an anuswara. So let's look at this one. And we see Rishinam, Pustakam, Patati. This is great. Rishinam, so that's plural and genitive. You're going to learn what that means in the next chapter. Pustakam is a great word. It means book. Pustakam. Now, that is in the accusative, so it's the object of a verb. Patati means to read. It means it's from the root pat, which means to read. So this means he, implied, reads patati, a book, pustakam, rishinam, of the rishis. So he reads the book that the rishis have written. He reads the rishis' books, the sages' books. Now, we have the application of a final ma with a long A and a final ma with a short A. Both behave in the same way. Rishinam pustakam patati. Rishinam pustakam patati. My friends that know Thai really well, and actually different areas of India will really hit this nasal differently. So sometimes you can hear Rishinam pustakam patati. I'm of the more Nepali way where it's Rishinam pustakam patati. But either way, the important message is final ma with a virama, final ma with a virama, with no other changes needed, it becomes boom, anuswara, anuswara. All right, next volunteer. I want everybody to go at least once today.
So it just becomes an
No.
M, right?
All right, I want you to read the first one. And
Okay,
the
so
first and second part, and then explain the two Sandhi rules for me there, because there's two.
oh, there's two. Oh, I
Yeah.
might back out of this. Hold on.
Oh, no, you got this. I explained it to you a minute ago.
Okay.
I'll help
So
you. Don't worry.
Ramo
Mm-hmm.
Vanam
Mm-hmm.
Gachati.
Mm-hmm. And there's
Uh
a second, yeah.
and then Ramam plus
So that's
Vanam.
Ramas.
Ramas. Oh, sorry, Ramas
You
plus
got it.
Vanam
Mm-hmm.
and plus Gachati.
Yeah. So even if you turn around, you say Ramas Vanam Gachati equals Ramo Vanam Gachati. Now tell me the two Sandhi rules. If you can't remember that exact other rule, I'll help you.
Okay, I don't remember the exact other rule, but I can see how Vanam becomes Vanam.
Good. So now just tell me what the change is.
The change is the M becomes it's an Anuswara, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Tell me what the other one is.
The other one, is it in the, so it's with the, so the sa, this, O and V?
Yes, exactly. So
O and V.
Ramas connects to Va. And what does
Uh-huh.
Va do? It gets radioactive. And that radioactive Va is voiced. We know that when AS, short AS, Ramas, meets that radioactive voiced initial consonant, it becomes O. So Ramas Vanam Gachati becomes Ramo Vanam Gachati. And what does this mean? We went over that. I used this as an example like 15 times the first week.
Yeah.
Rama goes
It
to
was
the
messed
forest.
up.
Yeah, Rama becomes Gujarati. Yeah, I saw that. Okay, so Ramo Vanam Gachati is going to be, you are going to dream this word, this sentence. Everything comes out of this. This is Rama goes to the forest. Rama, the god Rama, arguably, forest, Vanam, Gachati goes. So the reason I keep saying it to you and using this one, and I said it so many times in the beginning of class, is because this is going to be, we're going to build everything off of this one sentence. We're going to start doing it in the next chapter. Quick question. How many of you are familiar with the story of the Ramayana? I need like a way to tell you. All right, just say out loud if you are not familiar with the story of the Ramayana. Okay, we got one person. That's enough.
Not familiar.
Okay, that's good. So all of the readings that we're going to start on chapter 4, and actually a lot of the examples that we've had so far are from the Ramayana. So part of what we're going to do is I'm going to be telling you the story of the Ramayana as we go along. And I'm going to think about it and see if I can find a good like 90-minute version of the Ramayana just to make available as a resource for you. All right, my next victim. Volunteer, I'll start calling on people.
I'll
Erica will go.
go.
No.
Ah,
Just one E, start going.
all right. So, number 2, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you want me to read it
Read
first,
both
or
parts and then explain it to me.
okay? Rishinam, pustakam, patati
Very good.
becomes Rishi Nam, or like is dissolved into Rishi Nam.
It
Plus,
demutates.
it demutates. It becomes just normal.
Mhm.
Plus pustakam plus patati.
Yeah, good. And you're
Um,
doing a couple of great things there, Atlas. I want everybody to notice this is re, initial re. Some of us missed this on the test. So I can see why you want to call it a cr, like a K and an R. I see why you want to call it a tra, because it looks like a tra. But this particular one is the initial re. All right, Atlas, tell us what's up.
So the Anuswara demutates into final M for both of the first words. Really,
Yeah.
that's all I see
Do you
going
see
on.
any other Sandhis happening?
Yeah,
No, you are correct. No, that's not a trick question for once. All right. So what are we learning here? First off, old one that we learned a little bit earlier, maybe we didn't pick up completely, but we're going to now. Ramas. So this would be Rama with a visarga. Remember that sa at the end would be a visarga, but you can't have a visarga and a voiced va for various reasons, a voiced consonant. So the sa does not become a visarga, it becomes an O. So Ramo Vanam. Short us with no vowel plus voiced consonant becomes O plus the consonant. Here we see long A with a ma and virama, short A with a ma and virama becomes anuswara on both. All right, big rule. There's my stupid thing that I put in the wrong place. All right, so we have had etat. We have gone through, so we are now on Goldman page 4. And this one is tricky. So I'm going to explain it all to you, and you're going to want to really pay attention because, why? Because I'm going to ask you to break it. And this, in fact, is a really great example because we're going to do a number of Sandhi rules here. So first off, kasmin plus chit plus nagare plus avasat plus raja. Now, this means the king lived in some city. After the mutations occur, we get kasmin chinagare vasadraja. Why does that say raja? I thought I fixed that. Did this double up on me? Whatever. That's raja at the end for now. Sorry. Okay. So kasmin, the na here we have a rule. When a final na encounters the unvoiced of the cha, ta, and ta varga, it becomes an anuswara plus the sibilant plus the initial. Now, that might not make sense to you, but it's going to in a minute. So I did this in a little bit of a code here, that final na plus the unvoiced of cha, ta, ta vargas, that would be this varga, and this varga, plus an initial, plus the initial sound. That's going to combine into the sandhi. So here it would be cha. So anuswara plus sha, sa, plus that same unvoiced consonant of the cha, ta, ta varga. This is going to sound right to you in a while. And it's going to build with vocab, and a lot of these rules are going to become really comfortable to you. So now let's go one at a time. Kasmin chit nagare avasat raja becomes Kasminchit nagare avasapraja. See how much easier that was for me to say? Maybe you do. Right off the bat, kasmin meets cha. All right. So the in becomes following this rule. Cha is in that cha varga, right? So that's a cha. So is it voiced? No. So unvoiced in the cha varga, shit, means that this bad boy over here is going to mutate into a na. Where is it? It's so blah, blah, blah. Yes. So your kasmin actually becomes in. So the na becomes an anuswara. That's what's right there. However, we have this funny word about the sibilants. I think I don't have the sibilant written into my little equation there. So that's live and learn. So kasmin becomes kasmim. And then because it's the ta varga, the na, what does the na correspond to there? That na, that corresponds to the sibilant, which is sha. See, cha, everything's in the cha varga. What we have is this na, right? This is our natural sound, our unmutated thing. However, it's going to mutate. And in this one, it mutates into an anuswara. Don't think too hard of it. It's almost like it turns into this, and then this turns into an anuswara. But just say, when the na makes contact with anything up here, it will become anuswara. But it will also, after that anuswara, have the sibilant in this varga or sha go in and be inserted, and then you will connect it to the original sound, cha, the mutator. Remember, cha here is doing all the work. Kasmin's minding its own business. It's fine. It's having a nice life. It wanders along and meets cha, and cha says, oh, baby, I'm radioactive. You are going to mutate. You are going to turn into na, and you're going to grow another limb right out of your head. And that limb is a sha. That limb is your sibilant that's connected to cha. So we go from kasmin chit to kasmin chin. Now things start getting interesting. We learned this a little bit earlier, but I probably went over it too fast. A ta, when it comes into contact with a na, that ta there actually encounters the na, and that na is radioactive. So it turns the ta into a na itself. So chit nagare becomes chinagare. Chinagare. All right, we're in a good place now. Plus avasa. Well, re plus short does that have a rule? Oh shit, that's got a rule. If it ends with an A, an E sound, an A, and encounters a short what happens? It gets that dreadful awagraha, that thing that looks like a little S. So see how that's happening there too? And also, as we've seen earlier, and we haven't completely incorporated into our brains yet, but we're learning about it now, we have a ta. Now that ta is encountering a ra. That's voiced too. So what happens when this unvoiced ta meets a voiced ra? Well, that ra says, hey, baby, you look like a nice unvoiced ta. I'm voiced. How would you like to get voiced? And it gets voiced. Ta transforms to ra, to da, and connects with ra. Raja. I know I spelled that wrong. So there's like 4 sandhis here. And each single part of this builds on an earlier part of the chapter, which I realize now that I'm teaching this way, we haven't fully incorporated, but we're gonna get there. As.
For kasmim chit meaning some, what do those individual constituents mean?
Okay. All right, here we go. Kasmin means something. Chit makes it indefinite. So this is like saying where. So this is it's an interrogative pronoun, it means where. Chit turns it into something like somewhere. Nagara means city. Now, what's the language with it or the script we're writing in? Deva Nagari, the city of the gods. Nagara means city. That's an allocative. Avasat is a verb, which means dwells or lived. And finally, we have Raja, which means a king. So the king lives in something or other city. The king lived in some city. Sorry, that's past tense. So
did you say that Kasmin itself means is like a locative, basically, like a
yeah, don't bring that. You're way ahead. You're way ahead. But yes, absolutely. And we'll find that this chit,
for my own sake, nobody else is.
what you'll find is that this chit gets added to a whole bunch of other things. Like I could say kas chit, which would mean like whomsoever, and then I'd go from there. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I want you to note here, na, and our nasal here is minding its own business. It meets this very radioactive cha. So we've got our na hanging out here. We meet this cha, which is unvoiced. Now this unvoiced radioactive cha is going to turn the na into an anuswara. Then that radioactive anuswara na is going to grow another arm that will be the sibilant of the same class as the unvoiced initial, the cha. Then, moving right along, the ta wanders on by, and it goes in front of the na. Here, when ta encounters na, it radiates itself and turns into the na. And what this does is you go from chitna to chinna. It's a lot easier to say. Nagare does nothing. Avasat, you have the ta. The ta meets a radioactive ra. That radioactive ra takes the ta and takes it from unvoiced and makes it voiced. So from kasmin plus chit plus nagare plus avasat plus raja, we get kasmin chin nagare avasad raja. Now, here I've got it. Here I've got the rules much better. So note once again, I'm going to explain this, read it to you and explain it out loud. And then I'm just going to go from point to point and I'll call on 4 of you. I know you're freaked out. It's okay. I swear all of this will become second nature. Watch it on the chart. Now, if I'm reading Sanskrit, I'm never going to come across this. What I'll read is this, and I have to do this in my brain or write it out this way so I can look up each word. If you try to look up the word kasmin chinagare in a Sanskrit dictionary, you will get nothing. So, kasmin chinagare. All right, that's my word. Let's take a look here. Well, I know that there's a double na. Now, Che-I-N means something. Oh, Chinmayananda. Oh, I know that, Sandhi. That's chit. So that pa has turned into a na to connect with that na. All right, I got it. So that's chit nagare, chin nagare. All right. Now I've got kasmin. Oh, I bet that's kasmin that got turned into a anuswara. And I know that that anuswara is not happy when it encounters a cha. So it needs an extra arm to get in the way. It needs to invite someone else to the party to keep them from getting too friendly. So then we're like, nagare. Oh, nagare. Okay, that's a long, that's an A, and it comes before a short All vowels are voiced. Wait, that doesn't matter. There's a rule. Vasad. Vasad. That sounds like avasat. See, if I know the vocabulary, then I remember the sandhi quicker. So avasat. All right, well, I got the A and I got a va. Oh, wait. Every time I see an awagra, it only stands for one darn thing. And that's a short A that's been taken away. That's easy. Then finally, I've got avasad raja. Well, Raja can be a jerk. And then the da is voiced. Ra is voiced. I wonder if this word would make more sense if I took the da and made it unvoiced. Oh, it's not avasad raja. It's avasat raja. I can look that up. All right. That seemed like a lot. Now, we're going to go one at a time. And remember, the rules for all these transformations are down here. You got me? All right. First one. Kasminchit to kasminchit. Who wants to give me a try? Well, you don't have to want to. You just have to do it. Come on, I'll help you.
Okay, is this the one that this is what we just did,
the
right?
very first one. Yeah, so kasminchit becomes this part here. So maybe just read up to that point to there.
Kasmim. This first word here.
It's, yeah, you got it.
Okay. Kasmim. Nanagare.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Kasmin chinagare. Kasmin chinagare. That's going to roll off your tongue someday, I promise. All right, so what's this? Yeah, you got it. So what's going on with the na and the cha?
So the na meets the cha, which is not voiced or aspirated.
Excellent. And then
and
what?
It becomes a visarga.
No. The
An
na
anasara,
becomes there you go. There you go. Now you got it. Then
Wrong
what else
word.
happens? There's one more thing.
Okay. And then the E meets the sha. And so I don't know. And so,
You're close. So you got, this is the important part. All right. So the na meets that radioactive cha, and that turns into an anuswara. But the anuswara doesn't want to hang out with the cha. Just imagine it that way. So the anuswara brings its friend, the sibilant, to keep him at a distance at the party. That's a good way to think about it. So
I like that.
Who's keeping that anuswara away from that unvoiced initial?
This sha.
Yeah, that big old jerk sha. Ruining the party. Excellent. All right. Next person. We've got Kashmin Chit and Nagare. That becomes Kazmin or Kazmin. Sorry. Kazman Chin Nagare. What's going on with that ta and that na?
I'll try it.
Do it.
So the ta meets the na.
Mm-hmm.
That turns it into na.
Exactly. When ta meets na, and the rule here is that an unvoiced final consonant encountering a voiced initial alters that unvoiced consonant, and it works together, especially with tas. What I want you to remember here is that ta, when it hits na, becomes a double na. That's really the big rule to remember. If you want to write down ta plus na equals double na. Excellent. All right. We got two more. Why do we have nagare, vasad? Or actually, somebody just do the whole thing because it's hard to break out. So nagare, vasad raja. So we're taking this one and this one, and I will help you. Come on, my bold Sanskritists.
I'll go.
Do it.
This is Tanya.
Yes, Tanya.
So it is the S, or the little S symbol becomes an A.
Yes. What? So that's the A there when it encounters
plus
a short...
the A there.
Yes. A plus A.
A plus A equals that little S. It's like
a
an
stupid S
A.
sound. It's called an awagraha, but I will take stupid S looking thing. So when you encounter the stupid S looking thing,
S thing.
When you encounter stupid S thing, what do you always think? Short It's always short It's never anything other than that. Weird S means short All right, now do the last one. Tell me about this horrible T and that horrible R.
So the ta and the ra, the ta is not voiced.
Yes.
Okay. And that becomes the duh in the top part.
Yes.
The ra,
yes.
Duh. Okay.
Yes. So what your rule, you basically just said out loud, is when an unvoiced ta or an unvoiced consonant and the end of a word, when it meets a voiced initial, because ra is voiced, then the unvoiced becomes voiced. I think the trick is the chart, because honestly, I'm understanding this better and the mechanics of it. So much of this when I read, it's just in there. I know how these terms, I break all these things naturally. So it's fun for me to really look at these.
I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
Back to the stupid little S thing. So that's
Yes.
pronounced as a short
It's not pronounced. Okay, so let's
But that
review
means
this
that there
really.
was a short
Let's review this really quick. All right, so
it
we have.
indicates that you're not saying
Hello? Hello? I lost
Yeah.
sound. Anybody?
We're paying
hello.
Okay. All right. Atlas, did you want to explain this?
I was just saying that it indicates that the is not being said.
Yes. So
Okay, okay.
yeah. When a short when the nagare, that E sound in English, but when we say A in Sanskrit, encounters a short the short drops. So that is a short but how do you pronounce it? Nagare vasat. Nagare vasat. So you don't actually pronounce the You read it in your head like there's an there, and you would look it up in a dictionary like it's this, but it would actually read nagare vasad. So once again, kasmin chit nagare avasat raja, kasmin chin nagare avasad raja. Now, why am I going through this so slowly? I'm not going through it slowly. In fact, we're moving at a good pace. But the thing is, notice that Goldman is having you practice a whole bunch of stuff that you learned before. And if you didn't get it then, you'll get it now. And if you don't get it now, don't worry, you'll be using these same rules every day that you're reading Sanskrit. It all gets connected. So here is a great one. A final na plus an unvoiced of the cha, ka, or ka varga equals ma plus a sibilant plus that same unvoiced initial. So this is the same rule, but we're going to apply it a little bit differently. Here we have murkan. Murkan means fools. It's in the plural accusative atlas. Tyajati, from the Sanskrit root tyaj, is a verb which means abandons, leaves behind. There's a word that you use in the context of asceticism called a tyagi. One who is a tyagi is one who has left everything behind, a renunciate. And then the final word is one you already know, pandita, a wise person. So here, murkan tyajati panditaha. A wise man, panditaha, leaves or abandons murkan, fools. Goldman says something like, a wise man leaves fools alone, and I'm kind of afraid that. I just say, a wise man abandons fools. Now, let's deal with the Sandhi. Murkan meets this dirty, saucy little T who is unvoiced. Also, I will admit that Sandhi is a euphemism for copulation in pretty much every way. I'll just leave that there. So this saucy little ta, just hot little number right there, the studly gent, got powerful animal capacity in his unvoicedness. Now we know that a nasal, when it hits an unvoiced consonant, becomes a ma. But ma and ta don't like each other. So they invite another pal to the party. And who's that pal going to be? that pal is going to be here, sa. Why is it sa? Because your initial unvoiced initial consonant ta corresponds to the sa, the dental sibilant. So Murkan, see that the stays long and becomes the anuswara plus sa here, any sibilant. So you could write down un plus ta transforms to un plus sa and then plus the ta, if you wanted to write it out in Devanagari. So Murkan tyajati panditaha, Murkan tyajati panditaha. And when you're reading these Sandhi lessons, when you review, gotta say them out loud. So Murkan tyajati panditaha, Murkan tyajati panditaha. Very quickly, ta, unvoiced, saucy little sexy ta, meets na, so innocent. Na turns himself into an anuswara. But as an anuswara, ta no longer likes him. So goes and gets his pal sa, his sibilant friend, slaps him on in there, and you get Murkans tyajati pandita. The anuswara, that na who once liked ta, will never meet ta again at the party because sa is in the way. I never thought to explain it that way, but I like it. All right.
It's kind of a tangent, but
yeah.
I'm looking at that ka. So some kas have that little swirly half circle at the bottom and some don't, which I think is why I get thrown, but they're exactly the same. It's just a script thing.
They're exactly the same. And what you're not only seeing is there are differences in the scripts that are much more pronounced when they're written, but even in the printing, there's 4 or 5 different versions you'll see. Once you're really used to the patterns, though, you'll just be like, oh, that's a ka. Yeah, I know what that is. And after a while, they really become interchangeable in your head, and you get used to going between those different little variations. But I remember learning to draw a ka, in fact, and then looking at like 3 different versions of ka and 3 different Sanskrit grammars, and going into my teacher, I'm like, are they all ka? And he's like, yeah. And I believe I said to him, how do you tell the difference between ka and ra and va? And he just laughed at me. But that guy wasn't a great Sanskritist. That's a whole other ball game. All right, so who's going to tell me a terrible story about fools being left by pundits and a saucy little ta hanging out on Front Street? Any gender you choose on that, I don't care. Go non-binary as well. All good to me. All right, so read it first, read it second, then explain it to me. And then your cheat sheet's right there. Come on, volunteers.
Okay, I can try.
Come on, Devin, do this.
All right. So to start, it's more karm. More karm jati. Ha pandita. Ha.
Excellent. Perfect.
Then
read the second version.
More karn jati.
Well, you almost put a sa in there, didn't you? And then pandita.
Oh yeah.
You're all right.
Jati.
Now tell me what I'm doing here. I've got this little ta over here.
Yes. So the N.
Yeah.
The N meets the T.
So any nasal meets the unvoiced T.
A nasal meets the unvoiced T. And it becomes an anuswara.
It mutates into the anuswara.
Yeah. And then we have to add the sibilant that corresponds to the T, which is sa.
Yes. Okay, hold on. Just hold on. Fucking perfect. Thank you. You just made my week. All right. Once again, that was excellent, Devin. Thank you. So we've got this na. meets this saucy little ta and decides to change himself around and become an anuswara. But at that point, that radioactive ta is like, I don't like you anymore. I'm going to get a sibilant to keep you away from me. And the rest of their party sucks. All right. Now we're on to another one. And a great little example. We have the final of the na. And now you're seeing this is me explaining it, not in Goldman. This is me trying to put it more better for y'all. I'm getting better at it. I'm working. You have a final na. So our final na here, plus a voiced of the cha and ta classes, just these cha and ta classes, all right? So just the ta and kas. So final na plus a voiced of cha and ta. So that's going to be these jas, cha and ta, yeah, blah, 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 of our cha and ta classes. This is where I get confused because I have too many things up. Yeah, cha and ta classes, right. So this na, when it comes into the voiced of the cha and ta, which will be ja, ja, and da, will become that same class nasal, which will be either na or na. So this one is the Talavia class. This is the retroflex class. And so become the retroflex nasal, and then it'll just straight up connect in the normal way. Now, let's look at it and have it make some sense. Dhanavan Jayati Indraha. Indraha means Indra, the hero of the Vedas. This is in the nominative. Jayati is a verb. We've seen this before. It's from the Sanskrit root ji. It means victory. So Indra is victorious, or Indra conquers. And who does he conquer? Dhanavan. This is Dhanava in the plural accusative. We'll learn this next week. The demons. So Indra conquers the demons. So we've got this Dhanavan hanging out here, and it finds this radioactive ja. Well, where are my ja? Ja is in the voiced cha and ta vargas. So our ja, ja, da, 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 da. What happens there? The na changes itself around. Here from ja, our little na turns into a na. That's the na of jnana, in fact. Now, na, after he turns himself into this na, ja made him change. Ja says, I like you just fine. Let's Sandhi. Dhanavan Jayatindra. We have another Sandhi here. Jayati plus Indra. Short I plus short I is long I. So in our Sandhi here, na, when it meets cha, turns into na. And then those two just join together. And E plus E equals E. Na mutates to na before ja. Now also, na retroflex, or na, if it encounters retroflex da, will turn into a na. Wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Doesn't that sound familiar somewhere? Where did we see that before? Uh-oh, it's right there. See how that's a da and that's a na? That's your retroflex da, and it effectively had like a na that met there, and it turned into a retroflex. We'll learn about that at the end of a lesson. Don't think about that too hard. Just keep that in your head. So, Dhanavan Jayati Indraha. Dhanavan Jayati Indraha. Dhanavan Jayati Indraha. Dhanavan Jayati Indraha. Oh, and look, see, yep. I didn't get my na on there. See, it happens to the best of us with this font software. So, here, the thing to remember, the na, when it encounters a voiced initial of the cha and ta class, transforms into the nasal of that same class, like ja. So ja and na. All right, break it. Volunteer.
I'll go.
Do it.
So start with the full word.
Yes. Because remember, that's how you're going to see it written in Sanskrit. You're never going to see Dhanavan plus Jayat. They'll never see that. What you're going to encounter is Dhanavan Jayatindra.
Dhanavan Janati Indraha.
Jayatindraha. Jayatindraha.
Jayatindraha.
Yeah.
So
And yes, I screwed that up. It says Inandra, but you get it.
So Danava. So na.
Yes.
Meaning a voice to Varga ja.
Uh-oh, up here.
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh, what's gonna happen?
Gonna become nya.
Oh yeah. And you know how Ja feels about nya? Feels good. It's good. Don't need no sha in the way.
That's right. And then let's see, Jayati. So I have Jayati Indra. So I have E plus E equals E.
Bang it.
Which becomes Jayatindrava.
Yeah,
Indraha.
nice.
Indraha.
Yeah, you got it. What was I reading somewhere? I think some of these are called copulative compounds, and there's one like Sanskrit grammarian is like, somebody gives these the phrase copulative compounds, but yeah, they are. So the sex is it's all sex in Sanskrit. Okay, now we are on to another one. We're moving right along. Madhuran Shabdan Shrinoti becomes Madhuran Shabdan Shrinoti. Now, we're back to this dilemma with that sha getting in the way. Final na before sha becomes that weird, funny little na we saw before, but sha changes too. Here, we have complete irradiation. Both are affecting one another. Entirely too much mutation. Now we come over here, and really this only applies to ending na and an initial sha. So you can just remember this example. So from Madhuran Shabdan Shrinoti, Madhuran Shabdan Shrinoti. So the shas become chas. Un becomes that sexy little na, and sha is like, I don't know, if you're gonna be that sexy, I gotta change to sha. And then they make sweet na cha love together, living together forever, contained one another. Na again. Oh, I see a sha. Well, I don't know. If I see a sha, that means I'm gonna turn into a na. If I'm gonna be a na, then sha's like, holy shnikes. If you're going to be a na, I want to be really cool with you and be a cha. This is like an ideal relationship when two people meet and they both change. Or maybe it's not ideal. Depending on my past history, it can go either way. So, Madhuran, Shabdan, Trinoti. Everything shifts here to the cha class. So I like to think of it this way. You have a na here, right? That's not in the cha class. That's in the ta class. You have a sha here. Where's sha at? Sha's in the cha class. Everybody wants to be in the sha class. So the na becomes the nasal in the cha class. And sha just has to get into the action because actually nsha is hard to say. But ncha, easy to say. So the sha jumps ship and becomes cha. I should write children's stories that are inappropriate about Sandhi. Never thought to explain these things this way. I should have. All right. Now, break it. It's my volunteer. Here's somebody new. This is cool because you don't have to do, it's just one thing. You don't have a lot of variables. Oh, I didn't tell you what it means. I'm sorry. Madhuran means sweet. Madhu means honey. It can also mean liquor. Madhura means of the quality of honey, so sweet. Shabdan, from the word shabda, means a sound, any type of sound. And then shrinoti is a verb from the Sanskrit root shri, which means to hear, from which we get the term shruti, the scriptures that are heard, versus smriti, the scriptures that are remembered. Was it Devin that sent that thing to me about remembering and Sandhi? Whatever, it's cool. Somebody sent me something. So, he implied hears sounds, and those sounds are sweet. We're going to start learning how these sentences come together in the next chapter. All right, break it. I need my volunteers coming in fast. I want to get through this today. I'll take repeated volunteers. We got to do this. Come on. Chop, chop. The sound off? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? One of you needs, all right, it's gonna be Jared's in there. You're the first person I saw. If you just went, you're going again.
You got it, Jared.
Okay, I thought I was off the hook because I just went.
Well, you're going again. You're up because I had to open the thing. Yours was the first face that jumped into my head. Go for it.
So sorry that happened.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Okay, so Madhuran Shabdhan Srinoti.
Excellent.
I got to move your face so I can see the whole word together.
It's the same issue. All right.
Here we go. So, Madhuran Cha Chadha. Oof.
Trinoti. Trinoti.
Trinoti.
So here's a little trick that you could actually get on me. If I'm like, I don't know if I can read that, you could just say, read really fast. Madaran Shabdastrinoti. And I'd be like, oh, well, that said it right. Because your tongue knows it. All right, explain the rule.
Okay, let me move your face again. So have it first one is na and encounter sha.
So then the na does what?
Na becomes it mutates
Yes.
into having too many screens on my thing here.
It becomes that different na.
It becomes the nya. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the nya, nya.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does the sha do?
And the sha becomes cha.
Excellent. So Madhuran Shabdan Srinoti becomes Madhuran Shabdan Trinoti. All right, my next volunteer, after I explain the next one, is going to be Lindsay Brown. You're on deck. All right, here we got another long one, and we're going to learn some really cool stuff. Uttaman Lokan Labhate Dharmagnaha, that's nyaha. Some of you missed that one. That's the janya, nyaha, equals Uttaman Lokan Lo Labhate Dharmagnaha, which I'll say clearly next time I do it. Here, when you have a final na again, and it meets a la, like right there, what happens is it turns into an anuswara right there. So it's long still, just becomes an anuswara. But when it hits that L's like, I like it so much, there's going to be two of me. So this is the same rule here. So, and one thing I wanted to point out down here in the bottom is this is a chandra bindu. So sometimes your bindus will be written with a little moon underneath it, a chandra bindu. So uttaman lokan labate dharmagnaha, uttaman lokan labate dharmagna. So uttaman means the highest. Lokan means world. Both of these are in the accusative plural. Labhate from the Sanskrit, lab means to attain. Dharma plus nya means one who knows dharma. Nya is a shortened form of the term jnanin, and it's shortened to what's called an upapada, which is a formulaic syllable that means a shortened thing. So nya is a big one. Like someone can be yoga nya. one who knows yoga, yoga gna. All right, so what is the rule again? Na meets la. Na, and we don't need the chart for this because all it has to do is with la. And na's like, all right, I like you, la. I'm going to become an Anuswara just for you. And then the la's like, yeah, you are. I like it so much, there's going to be two of me. So utaman lokan, utaman lokan. Lokan labate, lokan labate. Ooh, this na meets this other la with a long A behind it. That doesn't matter. Long A, short A, it doesn't matter. Could be an I, could be an E, could be anything. But that na meets the la, and it's so happy it radiates into an Anuswara, and the la doubles itself, like a yogi with so many bodies. Utaman lokan labate dharma gnaha. See, it took me a second. Utaman lokan labate dharma gnaha. But you'll notice we say utan lokan labate. When you hit that na, you got to stop. So this allows you to go quicker. All right, break it. Who did I say was up next? Lindsay.
Me.
Girl.
Do you want me to read it first or do the rule first?
Read it first. Read it first.
Okay. What? Sorry, what?
Sorry, I got excited because we're going to make it through everything in this class. I'm excited.
Oh, okay. Utata mam la lo kam la lam bahate.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Yes.
Dharmaha.
Dharma gnaha. Gnaha.
Dharma naha.
Yeah, so like lokagnya or yoga. Well, actually, I have to think of a couple. Lokagnya would be someone who knows the world, a worldly person. Yoga gnya would be someone who knows yoga. Here, dharma gnya, one who knows dharma. So I'll say it one more time, and I'll see if you can mimic this. Utaman lokan labate dharma gnan. You don't have
That's
to.
mouthful.
It is. Practice this later. Read me that last part and tell me the rule.
Read you which part? The after the equals part?
After the equals, yes.
Okay. Tata man plus lo lokan.
Excellent.
Plus lo bahate.
Labate.
Labate.
Yeah, that low just baited you in there.
It did. It got me. Plus Dharmaha.
Dharma gna. Gna.
Dharma gna.
Yeah, you got it. Tell me the rule.
When you have the final N is before the laws, it turns into the Anuswara, and then it creates the double L's afterwards.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right. We're coming into the home stretch here. Boy, I wish I'd figured out how to teach this better earlier. Oh, well. What do you do? Final, big na, little na, that's the retroflex na, and the dental na actually double. They double up after a short vowel and before any initial vowel. You don't need the chart here. So here we have stuvan and agachati becomes stuvan agachati. So this na, and this na mutate to be double na without any effect on the thing that comes after it, as long as the thing that comes after it is any vowel. So na becomes na before any vowel. And remember, vowels are voiced, so that kind of helps you understand. So stuvan agachati becomes stuvan agachati. Stuvan agachati, stuvan agachati. And for future reference for all y'all, when you have a double na like that, you just like say the na a little longer. Or if you have a double ta like we had before, so it's Uttama, uttama. You don't make it like tama, but it's like uttama. You just hit it a little bit longer. You'll get the hang of it over time. Now, this means stuvan means praising. And this is actually a participial. Don't worry about it. And then agachati means to come. Gachati means to go. Agachati with a prefix a means to come. So, and avagachati means to understand, but don't worry about that. We'll get confused on that later. So stuvanagachati means something like, I imply the he. So it's like, he comes. And while he comes, he is praising. Stuvan agachati. Actually, Atlas, I'm going to call on you to break this one because I think you'll get it. All right, get ready. Hassan Eva. There, that na sees the I for Eva. Sorry, I forgot my va at the end of that there. So Hassan Eva, the na likes the vowel so much that it doubles up. So this is just a rule. There's not really exceptions. These final nas, these three final nas, turn into, ma doesn't, you don't double up ma. These three final nas, when they encounter a vowel, they double. So Hassan Eva becomes Hassaniva. Now, big homework, Atlas. Break it and translate it. Oh yeah, and this means as if laughing. Eva means as if, and Hassan is the same as Stuvan there, but it means laughing and the participle. So he comes praising, and then we also have this thing that's just hanging out like as though laughing or as if laughing. Yeah, or is it as if he was laughter, but that's just silly. All right, break it, tell me the rule and translate it.
Well, I'm gonna read the whole thing first to get myself
Yes.
into this.
Good.
Okay, so Stuwana Gachati Hassani.
Hassaniva. Oh, it's because I copied and pasted is what I did. Oh,
Hassaniva.
Sorry. That's better.
Okay. So then breaking it down to so Stuwan agachati, because the nasal comes before a vowel,
Yes.
it doubles.
Yes.
And then Hassaniwa, same thing, because that nasal comes before that that I
That vowel. So this is what you remember. If you see a double na and a vowel after it, you know there's been a change. Double na is suspect there.
Basically, it's just gonna drop down to one nasal.
Yeah.
When you see that double nasal plus the
You got
vowel. And then translating it, Stuvan agachati, and so Stuvan, can you please remind me of that?
Stuvan means it's a participle, and it means like while singing or while praising.
Okay, so like he comes while praising, and then like while praising and laughing at the
Close.
Eva
means like
oh man,
or
what's
as
that?
if. It means Eva means like or as if.
Okay, so as if he is or he's, my brain is
Your brain is
feeling
translating
like a
Sanskrit right
sieve
now.
at the
Keep going.
moment.
You're so close. Keep talking it out. Keep talking it out.
I mean, I literally can't even remember what Stuvan means. Like,
Stuvan
you literally
means
just told
praising.
me, and so
All right, let's
like,
go back real quick because this is a great experience.
Thank you.
Stuvan agachati. So Stuvan means praising. So he comes and he's praising, or while he's praising, he comes forth. And then Hassan Eva, Hassan is in the same case as Stuvan. So that means like, so if I had Hassan agachati, that would be he comes forward laughing. So if you put these all together and do a complete Sanskrit sentence, which I think you can do, Stuvan praising, Hassan laughing, agachati comes forth, and Eva means as if.
So like he comes forth as though he, or like praising as though he is laughing.
Yes, exactly. You just read Sanskrit. There's your first Sanskrit sentence. You just did it. All of you that followed along, good. If you didn't, I'll do this for you, and you're going to read Sanskrit too right now. Stuvan, it's participle. It means while praising. Agachati means he comes forward. So he comes forward praising. Like if I said, he walks chewing gum. Eva means as if. Hassan is a participle, same tense as Stuvan. Hassan is easy to remember from the root has, like ha ha ha, laugh. So he comes praising as if laughing. And you could even say, he comes singing out praises as if laughing, which is a weird sentence, but it's all there. Got it? We have just a few more. Where is it? All right. We're getting toward the end here. Now, this one's hard, but I have a trick for it. I have a trick for this one. Let me make sure I got it. Yes. Okay. Now, a ha. The ha is at the beginning of a sentence or a word. When a ha comes after any consonant, that ha changes into the aspirated consonant of the class preceding that final consonant. So I'll walk you through this. Etat harati chauraha. Etat means this. Harati means to steal or to take. Chauraha means a thief. We have in Hindi the word chor. Chor. You may have read some Indian language. They'll talk about there's an area of Delhi called the Chor Bazaar, which is the place where the thieves sell stuff. It's not really that anymore, but that's just what it's called. So, etat harati chauraha becomes etat harati chauraha. Follow me this way. We have a consonant that ends a word. It encounters a ha. When it encounters that ha, so we have a ta here, and it encounters a ha. Well, ha doesn't like to be hanging around with a consonant. So ha decides that it's going to turn itself into the same class as ta, but instead of being like just becoming a ta, it becomes voiced and aspirated. So it's almost always this ta and ha becoming ka and ha becoming ka. Those are almost the only times you'll see them, but you kind of need to know the rule. So ta encounters ha. Ha goes down into the ta class and becomes voiced and aspirated ta, da. The ta, wanting to get in on the action, does not decide to aspirate itself, but becomes voiced. Etad harani chauraha. Here's another example. Vak. Vak means voice. Plus he. He is an article that just means sort of like indeed. Devta, a god, becomes vagti devaha. So we've got this ka hanging out. It encounters a ha. Ha does not want to hang. So ha transforms into ga. Ka likes it so much, they decide to become ga. They don't become the same thing. They connect, and they're real close, but still different, like an old married couple. So I've written it out here. An initial ha after a non-voiced final. So anything over in here, this is also an unvoiced final. an unvoiced final consonant here mutates to the aspirated voice version of that consonant. So ka meets ha. Ha becomes the aspirated voice version of ka, becomes ka. Then the ka, that non-voiced consonant, mutates to the voiced aspirate. All right. So ka to ga, ha to da. Remember that ta and ha mutate to double or to da, and ka and ha to ka. Now, there is another way to remember this. They call it the Buddha rule. Now, it's not because that's how you form the word Buddha, because that's something else. Remember this, and this is the way a friend of mine told me, and I just remembered it, and it helps, is but plus ha equals Buddha. Now, if we have but plus ha, which just really aren't Sanskrit words, we'd have this ta here, right? But plus ta. So ta is hanging out here. Ta meets ha. Well, ha doesn't like being just ha, so it becomes da. And then the ta that was hanging out says, I'm going to change myself and become da. So if you say, but ha Buddha, that's kind of easy to say. But ha Buddha? But ha Buddha. If you remember but ha Buddha, you'll get it. So I'm going to read these to you, and then I'm going to have somebody else go and read them back to me and explain the rules. Etadharati chauraha is etat plus harati chauraha. The ta meets the ha. Ha doesn't like being ha, so ha becomes the aspirated version of the ta class. Da. Ta wants to get in on it and turns into da. So when ta, unvoiced, meets ha, also unvoiced, ha becomes voiced aspirate of ta, which is da, and then ta turns into da. The thief carries that thing away. Vagti devata, vakhi devata. Indeed, speech is God. In fact, devata means something more like a god. Ka encounters ha. Ka is unvoiced. Ha is unvoiced. Ha decides it wants to get voiced. So ha becomes ka. Ka, not wanting to be unvoiced by himself over here, turns himself into ga. And then you have vaghi. Vaghi devta, vakhi devta. All right. But ha Buddha. But ha Buddha. Can somebody just go through one of these examples with me so we can get to the end? Anybody? Quick volunteers.
I'll go.
Go.
Okay, so oh wait, I started the first one, right? Yeah.
Either way, you just do one of them.
Okay, so giga.
Vaghi. I know it's hard. Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Giga. Devata.
Excellent.
Was vak plus he plus devata.
Yes.
And it's because the ka is meaning the ha, and so the
And I think the real
becomes,
rule is that they're both unvoiced is the trick, now that I think about it. Yeah.
They're both unvoiced, and then they both become voiced.
Yes.
So ha becomes ga, and ka becomes ga.
Yes. Now, you know what's really cool? What you did right there is you, in fact, stated that in your own words. That was differently than the way I described it, but you described it perfectly. You stated ka meets he. Both are unvoiced. So in that case, ka becomes ga voiced and ha becomes ga voiced. So you kind of basically said when ka and he meet each other, both become voiced and one becomes voiced aspirated. So that's a really good way to think of that. Excellent work. All right. Internal Sandhi. I'm just going to give you the examples, explain it briefly. This involves how a dental sa can mutate into a sh if it is before an an a ka, or a ra. The ra causes a mutation inside of a word. The reason to understand this is because of spelling changes, but there's a trick that I'll explain to you as we go. So if there is a R in a word or another retroflex sound, it'll cause mutations. In this sense, the dental S or the dental S before any letter other than well, and not in word final position, or if followed by ra, then sa mutates into sha. So don't try to remember that. But here we have a word, sidati. Now, sidati, if I add a V to it, then it becomes vishadati or vishidati. So it's the sa turns into a sha sometimes. What do you need to remember? When you see a sha inside a word or at the end of a word like that, it probably was originally a sa and the spelling has changed. We'll go over this many times again. So in the locative plural, kanyasu, which means among all the fair ladies, you have the sa sound, and it's a dental sa. But deveshu, because that va is in there, that va turns what would be devesu into deveshu, making it just nicer. Dasyati, in the future, I will give that thing to, or he gives. But bhavishati, the vowel mark is esya, the spelling changes. Why do you need to know this? If you see a sha inside a word, it is likely a mutated dental T or a dental S. This is important when you look up words and you conjugate words. But I just forget this rule, but just keep in your head, shas inside of words can actually be sort of sus. This rule is also applied with nus. Nus also become retroflexed. So ram or rama, when it becomes instrumental by rama, becomes ramena. So the ending is that dental na, but because there's that ra in there, it becomes retroflex. Do you need to remember why that happens? No. You just need to know that that's ramena. It's still ramena. It's just ramena. So Brahman, meaning the absolute, when it gets another instrumental, which is a long A here, that na, because that ra is in there, gets turned into a retroflex na. So Brahman, the absolute in the singular, but by virtue or by using the absolute, Brahmana. These are both instrumental endings that we're going to learn next chapter. Don't try to figure this out now. Just remember that na becomes rana often, and sa becomes rasha, and it explains a lot of different spellings. Chapter 3 is over. This is your first trip through. I think Tessa turned to me the other day and said, I've read this like 4 times and I don't get it. I'm like, I've read it probably 300 times in my life. When I first learned Sanskrit, one of my daily practices is I would reread chapter 3. And honestly, I know I didn't teach this well as we got started. I think I found a better way to teach it by the end. And I actually think the way I explained it today is the way that I would have understood it before. My pundit would just rattle off tight Sanskrit phrases and say, memorize this and move on. And then anytime you would ask him about a Sandhi and you would want him to explain it, he'd just rattle off that same phrase and move on. So that was really hard for me. I hope this was a little better for you, but I reformed all of the slides beforehand that I had through that has more of my words, fewer Goldman words, and it has 2 versions of each where it's put out once and explained, and then it says break it, and I explain it again that way. So I think it'll work a lot better for self-study. I think another student said they printed out the PowerPoints and still like, I don't get this, but I think it will make sense now. And I'd like any feedback you can give me. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to just answer questions. We are at 4:46. So if you want to get out of here, you can get out of here. If you want to hang around, I'll use the board. I'll answer questions. I've got a good 20 minutes I can give the rest of the class. So was that okay?
Yes.
I have to leave, but I just wanted to say this class felt way more understandable than last class for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm always
Thank you.
adapting, always learning. The reason I just
My
had to
way.
do some motion that last time, but I've redone the previous PowerPoints that'll be like this if you want to go through it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. Ulrich.
Bye, guys.
Happy Friday. Your next quiz is Thursday, not Tuesday.
Thank you for all the effort to support our learning and the
Mhm.
extra time and for being so open and receptive to our feedback. It's really a wonderful experience. So
Well, a
thank you.
good teacher is always learning from their students and
Absolutely.
adapting. And one thing I want you to, I tell people all the time, I'm most comfortable in full contact teaching. As you go forward and teach yourselves, always be adapting, always be taking risks. And often what you're seeing is me fucking up because I try something that doesn't work. So
Yeah, but
I'm always
just
willing to go
also
back and try a different way.
appreciation of